Welcome to the Megacast, our live local daily TV, radio, and streaming show. I'm Tyler Kieft. Today we'll be talking to a number of people about topics of interest and importance to Michiganders like you. Let's begin with what's making headlines today on our website, civiccentertv.com, on our local news page. Our top article comes from the Associated Press via the Detroit Free Press. We talked earlier on in the week about the historic storm coming in to kick off the snowy season here in Michigan, particularly in the Upper Peninsula. And they not only were blasted with storms, wind gusts, and power outages marred the entire Upper Peninsula earlier on this week. It's beginning to look a lot like winter in the Upper Peninsula, with snow falling and high winds toppling trees and causing power outages. MLive reported as much as 18 inches of snow had fallen as of Tuesday morning in the National Mine in Marquette County on the Upper Peninsula. Marquette County's Little Lake reported 10 inches of snow, and other locations between 4 and 6 inches. The snow, rain, and strong winds added up thousands of power outages across northern Michigan, not just the UP, but across northern Michigan, with 6,000 reported in one county alone, that being Leelanau County. Officials told Channel 9 and 10 News up north. Quote, wind gusts have been around 45 miles per hour, with peak wind gusts around 55 miles per hour, mostly along the lakeshore, said Consumers Energy media spokesperson Josh Pekoric. And he said the winds had also been highest along the lakeshore, gusting from between 45 to 55 miles per hour. In Leland Township, Fire Chief Dan Besson said the stormy weather was causing power outages also. Quote, obviously, we've had quite a bit of winds and rain, which have brought down quite a few trees and power lines, or caused them to arc between the two of them, in close quote, he said. So that storm definitely having a major effect earlier on this week in the Upper Peninsula, and still having an effect on them to this day. Also making headlines today from the Detroit News is Hannah McKay. Really interesting story about a local educator here in the Oakland County area. Detroit area billboards have been rented to find an organ donor for a professor at Lawrence Tech University. Scott Schneider is an associate professor at Lawrence Technological University, and is one of 204,000 people across the country and 2,400 Michiganders waiting for an organ transplant. The 59-year-old physics professor, known for dressing up in a blue wig and dyeing his beard blue to cheer on all of Lawrence Tech's Blue Devils teams, is facing end-stage renal failure. That's why he's looking for a living, healthy donor to give him one of their kidneys. And he's taken an unusual approach to finding one. His family has rented billboards all across Metro Detroit in order to find a donor. Quote, my kidneys very rudely decided they were going to fail, and closed quote, said Schneider, continuing on by saying, quote, basically, I lost the kidney lottery. I just don't seem to have kidneys that are willing to go the long haul, and close quote, obviously taking a cheekier approach to his renal failure. Schneider's sister, Deborah Schneider Quinn, and her family began renting out billboards last week looking for living kidney donors. There were 5 this week off of nearly every major interstate from East Point all the way to Wixom. And the Kidney for Scott campaign also has both a website and a Facebook page. The website is kidney4scott.com. Kidney4scott.com, and facebook.com/kidney4 abbreviated Dr. Scott. So Kidney4 Scott on Facebook. To join that Facebook group for more information and to spread the word. The response so far to the billboards has been tremendous, according to the Schneider family, and Associate Professor Schneider says he's grateful, though he feels a little bit awkward having his face on a billboard like this. Quote, I am not good at asking for help. It's very weird. It's awkward to try and put your name out and ask for help. I'm just grateful for the support. I'm grateful for people willing to share the message, and closed quote. Schneider lives in Farmington Hills and first became aware of his worsening kidney function about 5 years ago, but progressed through the first 5 stages of kidney disease rather quickly. He was put on the transplant list 2 years ago and has been on dialysis for over a year and a half. More information can be found by clicking on this article that will be posted sometime this afternoon on our website at civiccentertv.com on our local news page. You can also find it in the Detroit News and on their website at detroitnews.com. Finally, making headlines today on CivicCenterTV.com's local news page, also from the Associated Press via MLive. The Detroit Pistons opened their regular season campaign last night, their first of 82 games happening at Little Caesars Arena in downtown Detroit, and ending in a victory, 113-109 over the visiting Orlando Magic, and first overall pick Paolo Banchero coming to town as well. New Piston Bojan Bogdanovic scored 24 points in his Detroit debut, helping the Pistons defeat the Magic on Wednesday night. The first overall pick, as I mentioned, Paolo Banchero out of Duke on Orlando's team, had a great game as well, kicking off his official NBA career with the preseason being over. His first official NBA game, 27 points for the youngster, 9 rebounds and 5 assists. Cade Cunningham, the number 1 pick the year before, of course, for our Detroit Pistons, had 18 points and 10 assists in the contest. Cunningham's last assists set up Isaiah Stewart, or Beef Stew as he's known, for a three-pointer in the corner with 11.6 seconds remaining in the game. That gave Detroit a 4-point lead, taking it from a 108 to 107 game to being 111 to 107 at that time. Bogdanovic made 2 free throws with 4.7 seconds remaining to seal the deal for the Pistons, and giving them a 4-point cushion that ended the game. Also in their NBA debut, Pistons first-round pick Jaden Ivey had 19 points, and fellow first-round pick that was acquired on draft night from the New York Knicks, and what can most accurately be described as a classic Troy Weaver highway robbery of the New York staple. Jalen Duren kicked off his NBA career with 14 points and 11 rebounds for the Stones at Little Caesars Arena. Jalen Suggs for the Magic also had a nice game, 21 points before fouling out with 3:47 remaining in the fourth period. Last season, Detroit was 23-59 overall in 82 games, finishing just ahead of the Houston Rockets and the Orlando Magic as the third worst team in the entire league. The Magic went 22-60 last season and won the draft lottery, which they then used their first overall pick to then select forward Paolo Banchero out of Duke. The Pistons kicking off their season last night. They continue later on this week against the New York Knicks as they begin a slight road campaign for a few games and then come back home to Little Caesars Arena. But a great start for the Detroit Pistons. Tons of promise, particularly in that backcourt. Cade Cunningham going to be a great player. And it looks like Jaden Ivey has some serious potential as well in the NBA. Pistons got a bright future ahead. You might want to go down to LCA sometime. Take a look at this new look team, a great new era beginning here in Pistons basketball. All those headlines on the website, CivicCenterTV.com/local-news, along with links to COVID-19 updates from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, as well as the Oakland County Health Division. We have a great show ahead on this Thursday edition of the Megacast. Coming up next, Carrie Krawiec from the Birmingham Maple Clinic will join us, and we'll talk about sports. Particularly, we'll talk about cheating in sports, why it happens, what's the motivation, and what draws people to decide that cheating is the way to go when they're in competition. That's coming up next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be like happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Let's whoop it up for these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu.
This November, honor the many people who offer their lives for our freedom at the 2022 Heroes Appreciation Breakfast. Organizations, charities, and local residents are invited to celebrate the men and women that ensure our safety and security. Hear from guest speakers, live performances, and presentations from veterans, officers, and more. Save the date, November 8th, from 9 to 10:30 p.m. at the new West Bloomfield Middle School. Call 248-451-1900 to register.
Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live local daily TV, radio, and streaming show about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about our program by visiting civiccentertv.com/megacast. You'll find information on all of our partnering stations, as well as find all of our full shows and individual interviews on demand. Joining us now for our weekly mental health talk is Carrie Krawiec, a therapist at the Birmingham Maple Clinic. Carrie, thanks for being with us once again.
Thank you all for having me.
Glad to have you on. So we're in the middle of high school sports season across the state for kids and teens all across Michigan, and the professional sports season, certainly football in the swing of things, basketball and hockey just starting recently. But there's an interesting phenomenon in sports that's persisted throughout its history, and that has been the existence of cheating. And that really goes back to any sort of game that there is. When there is a game to be played or a competition to be had, people are naturally going to look to exploit whatever advantages that they can get. But when it comes to cheating, what typically is that motivating factor that leads someone to not only recognize a way they can cheat, but to execute on that cheating and ultimately taint the competition?
Sure, the kinds of cheating has happened in so many forms across games and sports throughout history, but there are different motivating factors. So for some, at the most basic level, it's just the likelihood of getting caught. Do the rewards of winning, whether the attention of others or your own excitement about winning, exceed the likelihood that you'll get caught or punished in some way? And does the severity of the punishment outweigh the pleasure of winning? That would be sort of maybe one of the most basic root causes of cheating. And you see that, from childhood on. Cheating also, of course, there are so many pressures in sports. There can be, financial gain to be had, certainly feeling of guilt or anxiety if you have other family members depending on your success or have devoted their lives to your success, that you may feel guilt or shame at the thought of losing or the disappointment. That cheating may also become a motivator. It also exists differently in people if you are what's called extrinsically motivated, meaning you feel the most excitement from the attention and approval of others. You'd be more likely to cheat than those who feel intrinsically motivated, which is that your own sort of soul guides what you see as accomplishment or not. If you knew you cheated, you'd never really feel good about it.
Yeah, and you mentioned those really two sides that are often a factor. People that cheat out of a feeling of need, and those who cheat out of a feeling of maybe curiosity or seeing how far they can get away with it, or maybe there's some sort of enjoyment that comes from getting away with cheating people out of a competition or giving yourself that sort of advantage. But so often when we think about cheating in sports and in other games, we think about people that are getting caught and the punishments or the retribution that they are facing and for that cheating. But we don't often think about what happens to those that get away with it that we don't even know about for a long time. In terms of those individuals, when they do get away with it, that first time or those first few times, how can that psychologically affect them to then further motivate them to continue cheating?
Sure, and it can go one of both ways, right? There can be sort of, like you said, the excitement from actually cheating itself can become a little bit addictive too, right? Like you said, how the pleasure is in part of the act of sort of duping someone else. And so that can be sort of one motivator. Certainly, once you get to a certain level, there can be sort of anxiety, guilt, or shame, what we call like imposter syndrome, like a sense you don't feel like you truly belong where you're at. And then you can be propelled to continue to cheat to maintain the illusion that you belong there. But that cycle just causes a deeper and deeper spiral, right? Because because then you've actually proven to yourself you don't belong there, and you're constantly holding that view of yourself.
And so in terms of treatment or just simply addressing the issue of cheating, there's a few different routes that you can really take because for some people, they're just going to continue on to doing it. They start to feel that enjoyment of the rush of getting away with it or attempting to attempting to get away with it and maybe even being close to getting caught can also be a factor in that. But also you have people that maybe are noticing some strange behavior or these behaviors are sort of building up and it's changing the way that these people normally act. They normally, carry themselves and go about their work, especially if they're playing at a high level in these games and in these sports where the communities are relatively small and many of the individuals involved have similar processes. So at that point, if you're noticing someone's behaving oddly and maybe have some suspicions that they're doing something that's outside of the norm, what do you suggest that they do to address that with the individual or with other authorities that may be able to get this person some help?
So certainly, I mean, I think one of the things that this kind of taps into is that the people that are often the most wounded mentally and emotionally from the act of cheating are the opponents that are the victims of the cheater's actions, right? That they lose trust in the sport, they lose confidence in their self and their ability to assess a situation, assess right from wrong. They might carry a lot of anxiety and about their own personal ethics. Do I participate in cheating because cheating seems to be somehow considered sort of okay, or do I hold myself back knowing that I'm not going to be able to compete at the same level if cheating isn't a part of my thing. So I think part of the conversation about it is certainly how it affects sport, and I think from young ages, in certain games and play, we say don't cheat, but what else do we say about it? Such a simplistic thing. Are we confronting the behaviors? Are we maybe suggesting that, yes, winning is great, but if people don't want to play with you or against you, that cheating has sort of other consequences besides getting caught. It may hurt you in your peer relationships. It may cause people to lose trust in your character, and that those consequences may be greater long term than just winning or losing.
We're joined by Carrie Krawiec from the Birmingham Maple Clinic on today's edition of the Megacast. You can find more information, get in contact with them at birminghammaple.com. Birminghammaple.com is their website. And Carrie, from a psychological perspective, from a professional's point of view, what is that point where somebody that may be in competition and trying to take advantage of the situation that they're in or the competition they're going up against or the officiating of that competition, whether it's a sport, a game, or something else. At what point does that become antisocial or just a little bit off, and they need to have some professional help or some guidance to correct their behavior in the case of cheating?
Certainly the most right, certainly the people who are the most antisocial are going to be the least caring about whether it impacts other people and the most motivated to continue and the least motivated to get help about it. They might be forced into help or some consequence or punishment, but ultimately they would not be very motivated to to seek some sort of assistance about it. I mean, people who are connected to other people who have that sort of communal nature and are motivated are going to feel a deep sense of guilt and shame, and to be able to replace the thoughts that kind of keep the behavior alive. I mean, I think we probably all cheat in differing degrees on differing things, where we think, okay, maybe this little casual game of family euchre, it's okay, but a professional sport, it's not, or maybe think it's a small shortcut. We were so close, to qualifying. A small shortcut is really not indicative of a cheat. So I think it's people's ability to like justify or rationalize or make excuses for their behavior. And how are we just constantly holding ourselves accountable to when or when not is this justifiable? And are we talking with others to kind of get that feedback and mirroring back to us, maybe from a swath of people, because some are going to, of course, support our justifications and some are going to actually ask us to question ourselves.
Like any other form of treatment, Carrie, it's going to be different person to person, case to case. But in general, generally speaking, when you're talking about cheaters in competition or people that just enjoy maybe get in the way with some nefarious acts that involve other people, their feelings, certainly competition and integrity, so to speak. How do you address that? What are some of the common ways that is addressed and that is treated in the mental health community?
So I think part of it is just like, right, yeah, challenging the thoughts. What are the thoughts that sort of underlie the behavior? Certainly drawing attention to the behavior, monitoring and supervision, even from young ages. If you're kind of calling out and saying, hey, look, we're watching you, we're seeing this, we know it's happening, it's not getting past us, even if there's not some overt consequence. So knowing you kind of have those eyes on you, but then challenging the thoughts, like where along the way did you learn that winning at all costs was the best thing for you? And do you perhaps see that there are these other side effects of it, and drawing attention to those is a tactic kind of called motivational interviewing. Is a person sort of conflicted, and can you sort of tip the scales in the favor of some alternative thoughts?
And there's a difference too between, kind of bending the rules or working through the rules to kind of saying, what you can and cannot do and what the boundaries are in terms of officiating these competitions versus full-on cheating. So, for example, when I ran cross country in high school, I would do this thing where when we got into the woods, that's typically where the officiating crews aren't going to be. So, maybe I have a little bit more of an elbow action, or I'm bumping into people a little bit to throw them a little bit off course here and there. Nothing too aggressive, but just enough to give a little bit of an edge. And that was something I would do occasionally, but not something where I would full on spike people or be shoving people around, which would of course be against the sanctity of the sport. So for people that are kind of doing things like that, maybe trying to take some sort of advantage, find some sort of an advantage in a competition, but nothing too severe, how do you suggest that they go about checking themselves in those situations so that it doesn't go from taking minor leaps forward to try to boost your competition and give your team a better chance to win versus full-on cheating and taking away from the integrity of these games?
Sure. I love the word integrity. So integrity is when your behaviors match your values. So if you're doing what you believe is right, or if your actions match, then you feel you have integrity. And of course, there's going to be esteem that comes from that. And of course, in a community, there's trust that comes from that you are a person of your word, that your actions match your values. So right, if it comes up to a line, right, that you're not willing to cross, and you still then have integrity, right? It's like when you cross your own lines, then integrity is shattered. And that's, of course, something to keep in mind.
Yeah, there's always going to be those little differences, those slight bending of the rules in any game. You see it all the time in sports and in competitions across the board. That's part of the joy and part of the excitement that comes with competition. But there is a difference. There's a fine line, really, between that and cheating. So we appreciate your insight and look into this so people can better understand what they're doing. Certainly the behavior of their kids that they're coaching in the case of youth sports and high school sports and individuals as well. Thank you very much, Carrie.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. BirminghamMaple.com is their website for more information and to get in contact with the professionals on issues such as cheating, as well as many other conditions and issues that you may want to address, or just to have a conversation on mental health with a professional, as so many people do need and continue to recognize over the course of time. BirminghamMaple.com is their website. We'll take a break. On the other side, we'll go from talking about mental health to We'll talk about some things that may give you a headache and make you want to talk to your therapist another time each and every week. And that is insurance. Coming up next, we'll be joined by Sheena from Meadowbrook Insurance Agency. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Let's whoop it up for these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu.
This November, honor the many people who offer their lives for our freedom at the 2022 Heroes Appreciation Breakfast. Organizations, charities, and local residents are invited to celebrate the men and women that ensure our safety and security. Hear from guest speakers, live performances, and presentations from veterans, officers, and more. Save the date, November 8th, from 9 to 10:30 p.m. at the new West Bloomfield Middle School. Call 248-451-1900 to register.
Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Let's whoop it up for these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live local daily TV, radio, and streaming show about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about our program on civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find more information on all of our partnering stations across the Great Lakes State, including My Michigan TV, and find all of our full shows and individual interviews on demand. civiccentertv.com/megacast. Joining us now on the program is Rebecca Sheena, an account executive at Meadowbrook Insurance Agency. Rebecca, thank you for joining us today.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, glad to have you on. So October is Car Care Month, and in addition to addressing, of course, proper vehicle maintenance, it's a good time to review your insurance policies. What are some of the common issues that you and other professionals in the insurance industry are seeing pop up right now that people should be addressing, or just basic ways, better yet, let's start with that, just basic ways that people can maintain their vehicle and ultimately by doing that, maintain good standing with their insurance?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the number one thing that we see as insurance agents is that we don't hear from our insureds enough about their policies and the type of coverages they think is best for their vehicles. So, one of the things that I always like to just right off the bat recommend to people is having those conversations with your insurance agent, checking in with them maybe, when you're purchasing a new policy, purchasing a new vehicle, or when you're going out to renew, just reaching out, having those conversations with them to see, what works best for you. And obviously, to make sure that you're maintaining your vehicles and proper maintenance, we always recommend doing inspections on the vehicles, making sure your tire pressure is correct, making sure that the engine maintenance light isn't always running and on, just so you can avoid potential hazards in the future. So talking with your agent, maintaining your vehicle, making sure that everything looks good, those are my best recommendations for my clients.
Yeah, I just had a situation with my car, and I was driving around a few weeks ago. I went to put on the AC on a hotter day, and I was hearing a rumbling. So I'm like, okay, that's obviously not normal. I'm going to shut off the AC, roll the windows down, and deal with whatever heat was there, and I'll check it out later on. Went under the hood, couldn't really get to any of the AC systems. Figured it was internal, and I was already needing to go in for regular maintenance. Added that to the docket, and here I go finding out that in some newer vehicles, which was really a bigger problem at the beginning of the pandemic, rodents such as squirrels, rats, otherwise, may build nests in some of these vehicles, and they had actually built a nest right near the AC and the heating system. So it's a great time. So luckily I had spoken over those kinds of issues when I had purchased the vehicle, and at least the vehicle, with my insurance agent, and had that covered in my policy. But that's one of the things to discuss, especially if you live in an area that has a little bit more woods, a little more wildlife around, or you're going to be in an area. Certainly, we're getting into the winter season, and the road conditions are going to be a lot different, and probably a lot more treacherous, especially those up in the Upper Peninsula. So, where do you suggest people start when they're having those conversations, when they're reviewing their policy, or certainly when they're building a new policy, when they purchase a vehicle or when they lease a vehicle, whatever the case may be, with their insurance agent?
Yeah, so the first thing that I always think is important is discussing your coverages. What you think is most important to you for your vehicle and the deductibles that you want to carry. So if you are somebody who, has a specific thing that they're concerned about, or something that they're constantly doing while they're driving, and you want to make sure that you are adequately covered. For example, you mentioned you had a little nest in your engine, correct? So that would be covered typically under comprehensive coverage. So if you carry that type of coverage on your policy, you can go back to your insurance company, file a claim, and most carriers should cover that under your comprehensive coverage. So it just goes back to what are some things that are important to you. For example, if you only have one vehicle and that vehicle ends up in the shop due to an accident, you probably need a rental vehicle to drive around in while that vehicle is in the shop. So making sure you have something like rental reimbursement, that's, definitely something that you want to discuss with your agent. Just making sure you have the proper coverages to take care of you in the event of an accident.
And Rebecca, the times we're living in, certainly with gas prices being what they are, and with supplies at repair shops and dealerships being where they're at, it's more expensive than ever to really own a vehicle or to have a vehicle that you're driving on the daily, and that's all the more reason why you want to find places that you can save some money, a buck here or two here or there, or significant money, and often we're seeing with insurance companies nowadays, they're putting incentives into these policies that hey, if we can use technology to track your driving, and we're aware that you're not just, keeping your vehicle in decent check and not getting into a bunch of accidents or getting a ton of tickets, but we also know that your driving habits are safe, you can actually save a lot of money there. Talk about that and how much more of a factor that's been recently in the insurance industry and how people can take advantage of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So some carriers out there are offering little devices that can be installed. I think it's like directly below your steering wheel. It's like a little drive-wise device that kind of monitors your driving habits. Like how frequently you're braking, your speed limit that you're constantly driving, how many miles you put on your vehicle per year, and they'll offer you a discount for installing that device. But there's tons of other ways that you can get discounts and incentives from your insurance companies. You just want to reach out to your agent and kind of see what options are available for you. For example, if you have a young driver in the household, a good student discount, a lot of carriers offer that. And memberships, if you are an AARP member or you bank with a credit union, for example, those are some additional discounts that some carriers do provide. So again, it's just reaching out to your agent's office, asking them those questions like, hey, is there any way that I can save some money on my insurance? And, hopefully from there, they can guide you in the right direction that can help you out.
We're joined by Rebecca Sheena on today's edition of the Megacast. She's an account executive with Meadowbrook Insurance Agency. Today, more information can be found and to get in contact with the professionals at Meadowbrook Insurance Agency at meadowbrook.com. That is meadowbrook.com for more information and to get in contact with them, ask them any questions that you may have. We mentioned earlier on fall driving conditions. Certainly the winter driving conditions going to add a factor into Michigan drivers and certainly their safety, but also it should add to their handy fall checklist or winter checklist as they're getting ready to safely drive their vehicle. Make sure, as you said earlier, that the vehicle's all in check before they head out onto the road and potentially have even more issues that may already be present and be able to be found in those checks. What are some of the things that should be on a driver's checklist, certainly this fall season, but also during these treacherous Michigan winters?
Yeah, absolutely. So things that I recommend maintaining in your vehicle, we definitely want to see some flashlights in there. If you have hazard lights, those are very, very important. Keeping maybe like some extra blankets in the vehicle because you just, you never know with road conditions what could happen. So anything that you feel would help protect you if you were stranded for any reason. We see a lot of snowfall here in Michigan. So, you just want to be safe while you're out on the road. Things that I personally recommend while you're driving habit-wise is, making sure that you maintain a safe or a large enough distance between the vehicle in front of you, reducing your speed, and even just slowing down when you know that you're about to come to a complete stop are some way that you could potentially prevent an accident from happening. So these are just, a few things of many, but, we just always want to make sure that all of our drivers are safe on the road.
Lastly, Rebecca, there's been so many changes in Michigan insurance law over the past several years, specifically surrounding Michigan's no-fault insurance laws. Can you explain kind of some of the basics of those changes and how they are affecting the average Michigan insurance policy, particularly for motor vehicles?
Yeah, so depending on the type of coverage and insured selects, they may see or find lower insurance premiums. But again, it just depends on the type of coverages they select. So the big topic right now is that Pip coverage, and Pip is also known as personal injury protection. It's what pays for all reasonably necessary medical expenses. So if you are involved in an auto accident in the state of Michigan, you can, claim your injuries through your Pip coverage. Previously, every driver in Michigan had to carry unlimited Pip coverage with no lifetime maximum on their policy. But as of July 2020, some new options were introduced. And I think that's the big topic that everyone's discussing right now is, should I be opting in or opting out? So there are four main types of coverages that you can select. You can opt out completely if you're covered through Medicare. You can choose a $50,000 limit if you are covered through Medicaid. And if you have private health care insurance with low enough deductibles, you can choose like a $250,000 limit. And then the final option is you can either choose a $500,000 limit, or you can, stick with your unlimited coverage. So these are just conversations that you're going to want to have with your agent's office to figure out, which option works best for you.
You can have a conversation with Rebecca and other agents and professionals at Meadowbrook Insurance Agency with locations in Ann Arbor, Grand Rapids, Jackson, Saginaw, Sarasota, and Southfield by visiting meadowbrookagency.com. That is meadowbrookagency.com for more information. Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate it. Meadowbrook.com, meadowbrookagency.com. For more information, their Southfield phone number 877-759-4365 as well. We'll take a break on the Megacast. When we come back, we'll be talking to Debi Banooni, the director of the Dorothy and Peter Brown Jewish Community Adult Day Program, one of many great nonprofit organizations here in our local area. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live local daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about our program by visiting civiccentertv.com/megacast. We'll find information on all of our partnering stations across Michigan and find all of our full interviews and each full episode and individual interview, my apologies, at our website as well from each and every single one of our programs. civiccentertv.com/megacast. Joining us now on the Megacast today is Debi Banooni. She is the director of the Dorothy and Peter Brown Jewish Community Adult Day Program. Debi, thank you for being with us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Appreciate having you on. So first off, just tell us a little bit about this program and who it serves and what are some of the services or initiatives that it spearheads.
So the Dorothy and Peter Brown program is a dementia-specific adult day program. So people that have a diagnosis of dementia, Alzheimer, or other cognitive affecting diagnoses are eligible to attend our day program, which is open from 9:30 to 4. It is a partnership between Gesher Human Services and Jewish Senior Life. So we have 2 locations, one in Southfield and one in West Bloomfield. And in addition to providing a day program for people who are living with dementia, we also provide services to their care partners.
And that is, as you mentioned, the services to caregivers is a relatively new initiative that's been added into this. Debi, especially given what's happened the last 2 years with the isolation of the pandemic, certainly that would inflate the worries that these individuals have about their loved ones, about the people that they're caring for. And so what has been added to this program to really address the caregivers' issues, as well as that of those that they're caring for, certainly as we've seen a lot of changes in our world in the last few years?
Absolutely. Well, I'm happy to say that it has always been a priority to us to provide services for care partners since the program started over 20 years ago. However, like you say, with so many changes that have taken place, it's been really important that we understand the new experiences that both the participants that we serve as well as their loved ones are experiencing. So we have had to change. We are back open to in-person services. However, we did create a virtual service as well and provide programming on a weekly basis for people who are living with dementia on a virtual basis as well as in person. And we have started additional services. We are very excited to be able to kick off our new caregiver series called Caregiving and Taking, Making Time for You. And this is a partnership with Jewish Senior Life and Jewish Family Service, as well as Gesher Human Services. And this is going to be a virtual program beginning in November that provides 7 different hour speakers that focus on either resources that are really important to caregivers or acknowledging the importance of self-care for these caregivers.
You can find more information by visiting brownadultday.org. That's brownadultday.org for more information on the Dorothy and Peter Brown Jewish Community Adult Day Program, which is a partnership, as Debbie had mentioned, between Gesher Human Services and Jewish Senior Life. Included in this program, what are some of the different, maybe seminars or classes or discussions that are to be had that have happened recently or are upcoming that might be helpful to individuals and certainly the caregivers dealing in particular with dementia?
Absolutely. So we are kicking off a 7-part series that will begin in November. And each series has a topic. So in November, we're doing caregiving and social isolation. And in December, we're having a music therapist do Tune Into Yourself, caregiver wellness and empowerment through music. Then these are all going to take place, I have to add, on the 3rd Tuesday of the month at 2 p.m. In January, we have estate planning essentials. February is embracing the wellness warrior within through movement, mindfulness, and motivation. In March, we have fall prevention, reducing the fear of falling and increasing physical activity. April, we have nourishment and self-care through the art of dough making. And in May, we're having Hospice 101 and how hospice can be beneficial the earlier it is engaged. And anyone that registers for this program, not anyone, the first 125 people that register for this program will also be able to pick up a gift bag that has items in it that were recommended by each of our speakers as a helpful connection to their piece. We're also recording every session. We do understand that caregivers don't always have the flexibility to block out an hour time. So we are recording each session, and therefore, if someone is interested in a session and unable to attend at the time that we have it scheduled, they'll be able to go back and see it as well.
And that's what's great about these different sessions is that people can view them on their own time or based on the issues that they may be having at a certain time or may, a forecast that they might address later on with their loved ones. And that's what makes, all this virtual that we've had in these sorts of programs, certainly with our nonprofits and the information organizations over the last several years. We're joined by Debi Banooni, the director of the Dorothy and Peter Brown Jewish Community Adult Day Program. On today's edition of the Megacast, again, you can learn more information about them and find their events by visiting brownadultday.org. That's brownadultday.org, and go to their events page or contact them. Their Southfield location, 248-233-4000, 248-233-4000. The West Bloomfield location, 248-661-6390, 248-661-6390 for more information. Debbie, on the individual level, are people able to get consultations with experts through your organization, or is this all really mostly in a group setting and group services that are being provided?
So this specific series is a group setting. However, all of our presenters are providing their contact information and making themselves available. Also through contacting us at the Dorothy and Peter Brown Jewish Community Adult Day Program, we have a social worker at each site who's always happy to talk to people and provide them with resources, referrals, suggestions, and support. We also have a caregiver support group that happens twice a month. So this particular series is a group session, but we always treat people as individuals and try to provide as much support as possible.
Again, more information can be found at brownadultday.org. That's brownadultday.org for more information about their different services as well as resources on understanding dementia. Tell us about some of those resources too and how important they can be to families that are just starting to experience a loved one of theirs with a diagnosis of dementia or maybe even just the symptoms, and might be able to help them find more resources or different questions they might want to be asking with their loved ones' primary care providers.
So we definitely offer a lot of resources, whether it's to other organizations or just in tools and understanding. It's really important, and it's a lot of information to know that when somebody is having some cognitive changes, we're able to provide support in explaining what are normal aging changes, because our memories do change as we age naturally, what could be a result of isolation, and what are changes that we see with dementia and what is happening with the brain and how that changes people's visual fields and their ability to communicate. So we do provide that information as support. We don't provide any diagnoses. We can always make recommendations to doctors and therapists of different kinds as well. But the information is crucial because if you understand what's happening in another person's brain, then it makes it it gives you tools how to better communicate and how to meet their needs while still trying to meet your needs.
Debi, another couple minutes with you before we'll say goodbye today. Any other information or advice that you'd suggest for caregivers and certainly for individuals or families with someone that may be dealing with dementia that we haven't discussed yet today, or any other lasting advice you have for them?
So I will say that we do find that many caregivers end up having more physical, emotional health problems than they would have otherwise. Because once you start taking care of someone else, you forget the focus of your own needs. So I would say a piece of advice that I want to put out there is, and I know this is by no means easy, is to remind all of our caregivers that in order to take care of themselves, in order to take care of someone else, it's crucial that they also take care of themselves. You know, anytime somebody gets on an airplane, they always say, you know, put on your oxygen mask first. So I'd say a crucial information is reminding caregivers to take care of themselves so that they have the strength, the energy to take care of those that they love.
More information, once again, can be found at brownadultday.org. Debi, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
That is going to do it for today's edition of the Megacast. As always, you can join us on civiccentertv.com/Megacast for more information on all of our partnering stations across the Great Lakes state and to find all of our full episodes and each individual interview on demand. That's civiccentertv.com/Megacast. We also encourage you to go to our local news page on civiccentertv.com for up-to-date information on COVID-19 from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and the Oakland County Health Division, and to find stories making headlines in your local area and areas all throughout the state of Michigan. Each and every day we post articles before our program, and you'll be able to read them in full. Click through to read those articles in full and their supporting materials. And of course, other articles making headlines in your local area as well. And if you have the means to do so, we highly encourage you to subscribe to these publications and support journalism in your local community. civiccentertv.com on our local news page. Big thank you to all of our guests on today's edition of the show. Again, if you're just tuning in, you can find all their interviews this afternoon on civiccentertv.com/Megacast. Big thank you also, huge thank you to our crew, Calvin Brown and Jared Clark at the studio of My Michigan TV at Master Control today, as well as Larry Nyland the king of television, as we call him, our producer for each and every one of the shows, booking our guests and helping both them and I get ready for informative conversations on a number of different topics each and every day. That does it for the Thursday edition of the Megacast. We'll return with a new episode very soon.